Characters. Who are they? What are they? Who will they become? So much goes into the creation of a character, their backstory, culture, beliefs, image, eye color, description, personalities, and so much more. As readers, we only get a glimpse of what truly goes into each character. So grab a beverage and get comfortable as we explore this episode's character in depth with your host, Madilynn Dale.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Character Driven. I'm excited to have an author that I haven't had on the show before with me today, guys. And we're going to be diving into a new character, exploring who they are, what influenced them to become this person, and find out a little bit about their story. So make sure you hit the like button and subscribe so you can see more of what comes out on Go Indie Now, because as you know, if you've been around a little bit, we are slowly growing and growing. But without further ado, let me bring in this fantastic author, and we're going to let him introduce himself and also the character.
I'm S.M. Hillman. Most folks just call me Sean, and I write speculative fiction. Down there at wickedboys.com, you can find all my links. And the character today is from the first story in the collection, a collection of short stories that I just released a little while ago. The story itself is called Sirocco, and the character is named Olanna. She doesn't have a last name yet, but she may not actually ever have a real last name. So,
which is totally okay, because sometimes characters, it's not super important to give them a last name.
Right.
But tell us a little bit more about her and how she finds herself in this story.
So Olanna, when we meet her, she starts the story as a killer of killers. She removes another bad person from the board, as it were. And she is agent for an undisclosed security agency, very much modeled after the CIA, the MI6, or at least the fictional versions of those, the ones that we love to write about. And Olanna is completing a mission when we meet her and ready to go on a mini vacation. She's earned a good rest because she's been on a mission for a while. But we find very quickly that her professionalism overrides her instincts for just sitting back and relaxing. And I think that's kind of a fundamental part of her character, is that she's a professional's professional.
Ooh, I like it. So what brought her into the world of killing? Did something happen in her past that led her down that road?
I think probably with the backstory I have for her so far, Olanna was someone who believes in service. And so that's probably initially how she found her way into service to whatever this larger politic or agency is. And that sort of drives her mentality. She's, and that theme is seen a little bit in the story as well. And when for people who are service oriented, they'll usually gravitate towards the tough jobs. They'll often take on more responsibilities. And in Olanna's case, that need to, her professionalism and her need to be responsible, to act service, she gravitated towards the dirty jobs part of the agency.
Ooh, I like it. She sounds fierce, and I like me some fierce female characters. Where did the inspiration come from for her character?
Olanna comes from a lot of the women I know. They're not all killers.
I hope not.
Just a few of them. But no, in general, I've been privileged to be involved with or known a lot of great women over the years that in a world that's not always friendly to women or those who, either cis women or trans women. Mm-hmm. They still stick to their guns, so to speak. They're still very forthright. They can be vulnerable, but also they know how to take care of business. A couple of the bosses I've had over my years, who that professionalism really was evident in the way that they worked, certainly added to Olanna's basic character. And the idea that the drive for perfection and to never sort of quit, even when things are tough, really comes from a lot of people I know.
Awesome. Without giving too many spoilers, because it's totally okay to give a little bit of a spoiler if you're comfortable with it.
Sure.
What are some of the challenges she faces in her story?
The first challenge really she faces is that question of, can I let this go and take care of myself, self-care? Or do I go ahead and step up and say, okay, my suspicions are raised, I've got to follow this through? That's basically, that's the personal challenge to it all. This is not my job specifically here and now. I did my job. Mm-hmm. This is someone else's job, but without, going into great detail, as typical of our protagonists, there is no one else who can do the job. But then it comes a point of navigating the dangerous people that she has to, or that she's chosen to infiltrate and gather information on. And that is really the challenge for the rest of the story as she navigates those dangerous people using her experience and her skills.
Ooh. I like that she pulls in her skills to go about all her tasks. And you mentioned her kind of toss up between self-care and stepping up. Does she struggle with self-care in the story?
To an extent, yes. It's a short story. It's very brief, obviously, yeah. But yes, she does. She something catches her eye. She goes to her hotel room. She tries to relax. She tries to get into a state where she can just let all the stress of the job go. But it's as she sort of relaxes, that allows her mind to clear. And when your mind's clear, all those little details that you think you missed suddenly come rushing back to you. And that's where she's like, oh, okay, wait a minute, this may be something bigger than I expected.
Nice. This is going to kind of dive into her backstory a little bit. Was that something she had to learn along the way down her path in life?
Well, I think too, that probably comes from that to me, that, my own experiences with things like that, that comes from childhood, not necessarily trauma, mm-hmm. But the decision is something as simple as, do I play computer games or do I clean up my room right now? Can I put cleaning up my room off, or should I just take care of it right now and then not have to worry about it? I suspect Olanna had a lot of responsibility as a child. So very well, she may have been an older child, the oldest child, where maybe she took care of her siblings, or she very early in life had to take care of parents, and that, or other family members, and that certainly informs her decisions later in life. And ultimately, I think the interesting thing is, it's very noble to self-sacrifice, to put yourself above others. But I think too, and I hope this comes through in a story, we as readers today, we're much more aware of this conflict, this inner conflict. And so I hope that we can see that although Olanna is our protagonist, and I hope people like her, mm-hmm. identify with her, I think in that identification, we can see, okay, maybe this isn't the healthiest decision that she could make. It's just what her training and instincts and life experience has led her to.
I'm going to change our focus a little bit to her world that she's in. What is life like in her story? What is the world like?
So it's really interesting. I grabbed a lot of details from things I've done. So I worked as a maintenance man at a hotel. Mm-hmm. And obviously, we know I go to a lot of conventions as well.
Yes.
So, so I'm well aware of, and I've always been keenly aware of the people who are in positions of service at those hotels, because I was one of them for a while. Mm-hmm. And so part of the world that she lives in, much like a James Bond, or to a lesser degree a Matt Hill, which is probably an obscure reference for some people. She sort of maneuvers among the more affluent threats to her society. She's not going after, let's say, a criminal gang, except as much as they're connected to either political or ideological enemies of the state in that regard, whatever the enemies are. Mm-hmm. So the world she inhabits is a bit like someone who travels a lot for a living. It's a science fiction setting. The world Sirocco. I just love that word, Sirocco. So that's why I named the planet, and I think it really rolls off the tongue.
It does. It's a gorgeous name. I love it.
And Sirocco is a planet based upon service. It's basically a tourism planet, a whole planet dedicated to tourism. And so that's kind of the world, the specific world. But it's a pretty large, at this point, undefined galaxy that she lives in. But something I would suspect, at least as a point of reference, if not politically, size-wise, something like the Federation might be in Star Trek, something that big.
Nice. Ooh. So she's on this planet, and is it kind of, compared to the other planets in the galaxy, what are some of the things that make it stand apart? Oh,
I think, again, getting back to the service orientation, so the populace itself is dedicated towards, service industries. And if you're aware of how that often works in some countries in the world, that can be a good and bad thing, right? So there's a certain degree of, and I think all science fiction does this, a little bit of political commentary as well, or social commentary, really. Yeah. It's like, we need to be keenly aware of how we treat people in other places who are earning a living by, fixing our toilets and making our beds and making sure our reservation is good. And so it's kind of, the story itself is a low-key shout out to those folks as well. But that's Sirocco, where even the 3-star, 2-star hotels are as good as our 5-star hotels, right? That's the kind of world that Olanna, or at least this world, is.
That is awesome. I like how almost compassionate it seems the people of that world are. Yeah. And it seems that kind of comes through in her, despite all the responsibilities resting on her shoulders. She's still extremely compassionate and cares about what happens because of certain events or what happens to the world.
Right. And she's herself an outsider. She's not from Sirocco, but she recognizes that same heart. A lot of people call it service heart. That same service idea within the people who are, working at the hotel and things like that. And I guess, again, I hope that you can see that she does have a little bit of sympathy for them, yes, or empathy.
Yeah. So you said she's not from the planet originally. How does she end up there?
So she's on a rich yacht, a yacht of a rich criminal. I wouldn't say mastermind. No one there is that smart, but just basically like a mafia space yacht. And then she's at a party. She goes and takes care of business. She goes back to the party, spends the night with one of the party goers, and then slips out of that persona and goes down to Sirocco and goes back to being herself, at least for a little while.
Nice. So it's like mask on, mask off for the job.
Right. That's a great way to put it. Yeah, she has a mask. She goes to Sirocco, takes her mask off briefly, and then slips it back on again.
Man, does anything kind of carry over from her having to kind of like switch gears like that? Or is she, I don't know, good? I guess a good way to describe it is she good at putting the things in the box to keep from worrying about it later?
Yes. And again, commenting not only in my own life, but other people, that I think, again, hopefully you'll see that there's that question of, is this a healthy thing to do? Mm-hmm. Right? Compartmentalizing like that. But yes, she is very capable of compartmentalizing. And that's one of her strengths. Whether it's, ultimately self-defeating is for another story for another day.
Yeah. Man. So her personality, does it completely change then when she does that?
She is able to, I think yes, that's probably the answer to that question. Is yes, she's able to sort of become someone different. And the person she becomes is a maintenance person. So she's able to slip into that service role very easily to deceive the people that she's trying to get intel on.
So now my question is, how does she find herself facing the challenge of whether to step up to handle this problem or not? Does somebody bring it to her, or does she just kind of, like, how does she get there?
So she, something, as she's checking in, something catches her eye, something about some people in the lobby that she knows just it was off in her mind, some pattern that wasn't correct. And as she's laying there thinking about it later, she realizes that there was what appeared to be several different groups of people checking in to the hotel were actually all the same group. And so that sort of, that immediately is like, that's an alarm going off in her head. It's like, why are they trying to deceive, if we all, as writers did that, we were all together, we tried to check in separately, like we were being very subtle, it would be very obvious, right? Because of all the kickback and things like that. But these people are doing that, but they're a little nervous. They haven't quite got it down how to do this very simple, basic thing, check into a hotel without raising somebody's suspicions. But everybody else is in that mode, right? All the hotel workers are in the mode of, hey, we're trying to make people feel welcome to our 3-star hotel. And of course, the other people in the hotel guests, they don't care. They're there for vacation.
Yeah. Oh, so she catches on to that something is up.
Right.
And does something kind of push her forward into kind of following that up?
Right.
So there we go.
Yeah, right. She contacts higher authority, who has an office on Sirocco.
Yeah.
And very, sort of off board. If you give a higher authority, if you come to them and say, hey, I found something suspicious, of course, they're not going to say, okay, I'll go find somebody else. They're going to say, oh, well, since you're there, you can handle this for us, can't you?
So she's caught between a rock and a hard place then, whether she wants to see what happens or just stay out of it.
Right, exactly. She knows that the moment she reports it, she's going to be on the clock again. And of course, so when she does, she is. They're like, okay, go ahead, investigate the thing.
Yeah. Man, that would be frustrating. Wanting to take a break, take a vacation, get some downtime, and here you are trying to do your chill and enjoy things, and lo and behold, here comes a suspicious group.
Right. Well, I mean, think about it as parents, right? When we go on vacation, you want to relax just as much as the kids do, but you still got a parent, right?
Yeah.
It's so that tapped into that a little bit as well. That sort of yin and yang, or good and bad of yay, we're on vacation, but I still got to be responsible 24/7, right?
Yeah.
Or at least one of us does, whoever, with two parents. But
yeah, that's a great description, I think, to fit that, because we don't get breaks really on vacation.
Right.
And sometimes it's a little more stressful than we'd like it to be.
Right.
But that does seem like that's where her story's gone. She's wanting to take a break, and yet work has followed her and won't leave her alone.
Correct.
Oh, man. So through it all, does she come out with a different perspective on her work life?
I don't know if she comes out with a different perspective on her work life, but she certainly comes out with more of an appreciation of the people that of Sirocco, more appreciation of the staff in the hotel. Not that she didn't have appreciation before, but she taps into her roots in a lot of ways, that same service orientation, and sort of sees that she's got a lot more common with them than she does necessarily with the other professional killers that she's been interacting with, much to their detriment. Right.
So does she end up staying on Sirocco, or does she eventually leave?
That's not known, but the idea, of course, will be that Olanna would more than likely finish her vacation and then head home to her next assignment, which is sort of her, that's the life she lives.
Yeah. Oh, man. Up and go and rest on occasion. Oh,
right.
Man. Did you find that anything that you wrote through her was going on in your life at the time?
I think a lot of the idea, I work with a lot of folks from overseas, and that's really telling in a lot of ways. When you make a good relationship with them, you see more of their lives and appreciate, even though things are tough here, and I'm not saying that things aren't tough for a lot of us here, but even when they're tough here, you can see that other people who are coming to work somehow smiling every day with situations that aren't nearly as good as we have it, or at least as I have it.
Yeah.
And so that was a good part of it. I write a lot of female characters because I like to explore people different than myself. So it felt good to write Olanna without being able to present a strong female character, a strong woman, and I think without relying on a lot of, there are certainly tropes in the story, but a lot of what I would consider, if not negative, if somewhat overused tropes in the story. So I really like this character a lot. The story is, sometimes the story is more than the character, but this was a vehicle for Olanna as opposed to Olanna just being a cog in the wheel of this particular story. And so I really like this character a lot. I intend to write more of her.
Ooh, I like her character too. She sounds like a very strong woman who could be inspiring to many others out there, especially those that pick up your book and go through her story.
Yeah.
If there was, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, hopefully she is, yeah.
Yeah. Was there anything about her character that kind of irked you? Like she had a quality or trait that ended up coming up that you didn't quite find was your favorite thing about her?
I think, in some ways, taking myself out of it, it irked me how easily she did say, okay, here's this thing in front of me, I'm going to do it. I know I've done that to my partners over the years, and partners have done that as well. And when you're someone you're relying on or someone you're partnered with, and you just say, look, can you take a break you please just take a break? And the answer that Olanna would give is, no, I have to do this thing. And so that it's an exploration, but it does irk you a little bit to be just like, oh, can't you relax for 5 minutes? So.
Definitely it struggles to relax. I can relate to that. Unfortunately, right. I think we all can at some kind of level. We just feel like we have so much going on and we don't feel like we need to stop. Like if we keep going, we will eventually be able to stop, but I feel like it never ends.
Yep.
Oh, man. Well, Sean, go ahead and tell our listeners and viewers where they can find you and grab a copy of her story and many more amazing things.
Absolutely. You can go to my site, thewickedboys.com. That's where you find my blog. And I think as a web guy, I'm always worried about this. I think all my links for my social media are correct. So when you go there, you can go to my social media from there. You'll be able to order the link to order The Language of Skeptics is on the site. You can get it from Amazon in ebook and paperback.
Sweet.
And Sirocco is the first story in the book.
Ooh, so you get to dive right into her story.
You get dive right. Yeah, it's that strong a story. I felt that it had to be first.
Yes, you definitely want to start those out with something that pulls readers in. I love that. Awesome. Thank you so much for being on Character Driven today.
Thank you for letting me be on. I appreciate it.
And viewers, don't forget, like I said at the start of the show, hit that like button, subscribe if you hadn't, show us some love, check out our work, and make sure you keep up with the shows coming. We'll have another Character Driven episode next week. So we'll see you then, guys. Have a good night. And remember, it's always time to go indie now.
Olanna exited the hotel through a back door that conveniently didn't show on the boards. A quick change of outfit, and into the far shores walked an overstressed, highly trained plumber who doubled as an electrician and a programmer. Grail, the well-dressed manager from the previous day, greeted her. "Thank you for coming so quickly. We have a VIP client with a need for discretion. Can I see your security pass?" Olanna handed the pass over, revealing beaten, scarred hands and fingernails that she had chewed off a few hours earlier. Always the small details, she reminded herself. Olanna could tell the supervisor had been looking. Grail's sharp eyes made the mission more difficult. The manager understood the need for security and discretion. Time was of the essence for the hotel, but the supervisor checked and double-checked Olanna's false credentials until the manager was satisfied. Without looking up, Grail dropped the credentials on the counter and pushed over an invoice to sign. "Sign this." Olanna did as instructed, just as any of the millions of service workers on Sirocco would have. Room 19, 11th floor. The supervisor did look up long enough to scowl at Olanna while handing over her work order. Olanna nodded once and headed off to the elevator.